Hello, we are here with Batya Hernandez today, and she's going to discuss her times at Elan and her times at River Edge Hospital with Dr. Schwartz when she was there back in the 70s. Batya, take over.
Okay. Um, Thank you, Mark, first of all, for doing everything that you're doing for this community. Um, it's probably helped my therapy progress more quickly than I thought it would have. I want to start from, I would say every now and then I used to seek out and look around. I was 42 years ago I went there in June of 77. So that's a long time. Or the first time I went to Dr. Schwartz's office. It was November of 1976. It was 1 week after my 14th birthday. And that the fact that I had just turned 14 is probably very pivotal as to why I got admitted so quickly to the hospital. So I was in 8th grade, a super shy kid, afraid of my shadow. My parents I never got told I was dyslexic or ADHD, but I learned later in life that was my stumbling block in school. And so they just threw tutors at me, which only compounded the problem. And I think by the time I graduated 8th grade, I knew it was kind of like a miracle that I graduated or I got helped because I was failing everything. Academically, I couldn't keep up. And so I would say that that's probably the cause that led me to Elan, was because I couldn't academically keep up with the kids.
So you didn't have behavioral issues or anything of that nature?
Not really.
No.
I was a really super shy kid in grammar school in 7th and 8th grade, and very compliant, very afraid of everything. I babysat for extra money. I didn't try anything until 9th grade. And so I got home from camp in the summer of, going into 9th grade. I was going to go to New Trier West High School, which is where I started. And we were having dinner one night, and my parents had this huge argument. And I couldn't believe it because I'd never seen my parents argue, ever. And then a week later, they said they were getting divorced. And so I started 9th grade with the knowledge that my parents were getting divorced. My mom moved into my bedroom because my dad couldn't afford a new place yet. Apparently my dad was kind of broke, but I didn't know all the stuff. I didn't know everything. And so when I started 9th grade, day one, at the bus stop, ready to go to New Trier West, the yellow school bus is picking me up. I'm at the same stop as Elan Smith. And Elan Smith was in my religious school carpool for many years. We went to temple together. And she was a year older than me. And I was always intimidated by her. And she asked me if I wanted to get high. And I was like, well, what is it? So I tried it. It didn't do anything for me. Tried it a couple more times. And then I guess I did it right. I really enjoyed pot. I tried alcohol. A lot of kids like to drink. I didn't really like alcohol. The only thing I really liked was pot, like always. That's all I can remember.
So how'd you turn up at Elan then? You sound like a regular kid.
So I started cutting classes and smoking pot. And I think my pathway to Elan was through my friendship with Iris Stevens. So Iris Stevens was the baddest girl that I grew up with.
Did she go to Elan too?
She ended up in Elan too.
Oh, good for her.
She was there. Actually, she died. She was murdered brutally.
Not at Elan?
No. In 1993, I think.
Well, that's a shame.
She was she was a prostitute and a drug addict, right. Unfortunately. Working the Waukegan Army or Navy, what was it? Great Lakes over there, and apparently 5 soldiers murdered her. She was found on the base.
Wow.
So it made it in the newspaper, and I read it one day, and I was like, whoa, because by then I had graduated from college. So,
tell me about your times at Elan, though.
Well, okay, so my friendship with Iris is what got me in trouble. So, Iris and I were smoking a cigarette in the bathroom at New Trier West. When the school narc, everybody had a school narc back then,
I remember,
walked into the bathroom. Her name was Mrs. Cole. She was this 5 foot tall, 200-pound woman who could not chase. And we knew it. So we stomped out our cigarettes and we threw them in the garbage can full of paper towels.
And lit the school on fire,
Now,
I would imagine.
but the garbage can was steel. The bathroom was fireproof tile. I can't imagine that anything beyond the garbage can was on fire. I don't think the school was in danger of being burnt down. Well, this is important. And so the next day I get called into a meeting with Iris, and I figured, well, we were going to get suspended and do the Breakfast Club. Just like the movie The Breakfast Club, Saturday morning detention, probably for a couple of months,
was
right?
it filmed there or was that Niles East?
It was actually filmed at New Trier West.
That's what I thought.
Yes. And, I mean, smoking was not a bad thing back then. We had a smoker's lounge indoors with vending machines. So it wasn't like we did anything really horrible, right? We were smoking in the bathroom, and the cigarette didn't go out all the way. But we got expelled for arson. And so I'm such a bad child, and Iris is such a bad friend that I got expelled, and my mother took me to see this Dr. Schwartz. And I was so afraid because I had been expelled that my mom said, "You just be honest, talk to him," And so I
How long did you see Dr. Schwartz for?
half an hour.
And then you went to Elan?
No, then he admitted me to McNeil Hospital.
And how long were you there for?
So when he admitted me, the first question he asked me was, "How many times have you been bald?"
Right.
I didn't know what he meant. And I was kind of, a little bit rebellious teenager. But I was too embarrassed to say, "What do you mean by that?" Right? And so I thought it meant touch a boy on his... So he asked me how many times I'd been bald. I didn't know how to answer that. So I thought in my mind, touch somebody there. And so I made out with one boy one night, and I hated it, and I probably would have stopped doing it and stayed on the swim team, because I didn't enjoy that feeling. And I told him once or twice. And then he looked at my mother and told her that I was hanging out with Iris. And he said, "Did you know that Iris was turning tricks at the Glencoe train station early in the morning on the Glencoe fathers and husbands?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know that." And so he just told my mom that I was doing it too because I was friends with Iris.
And then he sent you to Elan?
And so he sent me to the hospital. And but he had this thing where he made sure that my mom and I knew the law. He always was citing law.
Right.
And he said, if you're 14 years old and a child, you and one of your parents can sign a document that will sign you into the hospital. And if you want relief from home and you want to get better, then you sign this. So I signed myself in, unbeknownst to me. I was stuck in this system of his.
Right. And what happened when you got to Elan? When you finally got to Elan?
So I went to Elan because Schwartz took me to a hospital where he said I was going to get some tests, and he took me to a regular hospital, not a mental hospital.
Right.
And I was so, I guess, hated being under his control. He taunted that he had total control of me, that I ran away from the hospital. And I just didn't care if I would fare better out there in the unknown, but I had to get away.
Right.
I got caught the same night. I got sent to the Audi home, and there was some, court hearing or something. And in that hearing, this lawyer that was supposedly representing me said that Dr. Schwartz had found me a bed at Elan.
Did you have any idea what Elan was at that point?
He had told me about Elan for months at the hospital, kids talked about it as a scary, horrible place where nobody wants to end up. And truth be told, it was worse than the stories that I heard.
So you got to court, they bagged you, sent you off to Elan.
Actually, so they didn't. My dad took me on a plane, so I got to go on a plane. I didn't get the hogtied that a lot of kids got.
The Elan snatch.
My dad took me on the plane, and I remember two people from Elan. They actually were residents, not staff, in a station wagon. Picked me and my dad up in my trunk and all my belongings, and we drove into Poland Spring, Maine. And right away we drove up to the big house, which was Elan 3. But I was put in Elan 5. but they wanted my dad and me to meet Dr. Davidson and Joe Ritchie. So I met with Joe Ritchie and Dr. Davidson. And Dr. Davidson just basically told me some generic stuff, which I can barely remember, like, oh yeah, you're not going to like it at first, but, you'll get past it, and, you'll get privileges, and you'll be able to, write letters and go out to, like a teen disco when you go in reentry. And, he told me all these really cool things down the road as I got, like, more trusted. He's like, just follow the program. And I thought, okay, well, that sounded practical. Not that I knew what I was in for,
Right.
And then...
what was the craziest time at Elan you remember? Craziest time?
It was the violence of Michael Skakel's general meeting after he ran away.
Now, what do you remember about Michael Skakel?
He was always accused of killing this girl that he knew.
Now, were you in the house with Michael from the time he got...
No, he was in 3 and I was in 5.
This is not an interview on Michael Skakel. But
no, he was in 3 and I was in 5.
Okay.
But we often socialized with 3. We would have group dinners in the big house, all like 3 and 5 and 7 together, so that we got to know each other. We would sometimes have movie nights and things like that. And so I kind of got to know Michael in just like a, like a peer-to-peer. He just didn't
What kind of kid was he?
Really, he just seemed like the kind of kid that maybe got bullied as a kid and wasn't a bully.
Was he a tough guy?
No, he was
kid?
afraid.
He was a scared kid?
He was scared, just constant fear, like, And I don't think Elan did that to him. I think he kind of had that in him.
Was he humorous? Was he funny?
He was nice. He
Right.
was nice. He was just like... He was nice. I just, I couldn't equate him as like a violent person that killed a girl, right? That we were told that he did.
Sure.
And that I guess he admitted under so much duress. I mean, he must have gone 20 rounds in the boxing ring, and after like 10, 15 rounds, they put girls in the ring, and I think I even went in the ring with him.
And he got the GM for running away.
Yeah. And they would load us up in vans and make us go in the woods and look for him and other runaways.
How'd they finally catch him?
I don't remember. Probably in the chase.
Yeah.
They were pretty thorough about chasing people.
Oh, I remember
when they ran away.
You didn't get far.
Tracking. I mean, and they tracked you down, and I knew that kept me from going anywhere. They had me. I was scared as a rabbit. But
So what did this kid do after they beat him senseless in the ring?
I mean, I remember just his blood and snot on the wooden floor. Like, that image is seared in my brain.
Really?
Yep. And so I just remember, how could any of this be helpful when it's so violent? Like, that even the ones that participated in the violence were exhausted by the violence.
Did he ever say he killed Martha, though? Did he ever say, I did it?
I heard he said he did it. He never said it to me, but I never asked him.
But during his GM, though, did he ever cop out to it or anything? I really never heard. I mean, people say, and I know how the ring is.
I just don't think he did. I don't, but I don't remember. Okay.
No, this isn't an interview for
right.
Michael Skakel.
I mean, I just don't remember,
It's an interesting case.
It is an interesting case, but at that time, it first of all, I was so far removed from news and who the org chart of the Kennedy family was, that it, unless it was like Jack Kennedy or Robert Kennedy, I didn't know who the fuck this person was.
Right,
he was just another rich kid,
right?
Like us, right?
Sure.
Like, there was probably 80% rich kids in Poland Spring, and like most of the kids in Elan 7 were state kids, and sometimes if they were a little bit more like higher functioning, they would mainstream a couple of state kids, like some Puerto Rican kids or some. We had like one black kid in our house. And they would like put them in 5 and like socialize them, but
I think the point with Michael, though, going back to that for a second, is the fact that these rings and for the outsiders, as I call them, the ones that were never in Elan, I don't think they get the gravity of what these rings are like, and that you would confess to shooting Kennedy or Hoffman.
Well, okay,
you
well-
would confess to anything in these rings just to make it stack. Because these are real punches.
Do you want to hear something
This is
super
real
sadistic? They
violence.
had this thing called the spanking. It sounds innocent enough. You get a spanking, you misbehave,
Right.
you're like a baby, they give you a spanking. And I think that's what Joe says in that Elan video.
Right.
But no, they would put you over a folding chair, a metal chair, and they made these paddles out of thick plywood, okay, with a heavy handle. And each person got 5 whacks at Skakel. That was like the norm. Everybody got 5 whacks.
Right.
But 5 whacks with that heavy paddle.
They
And
beat
if,
them with paddles too.
yeah, if you're the paddler, your hand hurts after 5 whacks on that paddle. I'm serious. And you get like, it vibrates so strong. Okay.
Did they break this
And
kid's
so
ass bone?
imagine, like, there had to be at least 50 people that paddled him 5 times each.
They must have broke this kid's ass bone.
His ass was like raw hamburger meat.
Really?
Okay, his face looked like hamburger meat when they were done with him. He didn't look human. Okay.
Wow.
And there was just a pile of his sweat and snot and blood on the floor.
Michael Skakel.
Yes. Okay. They beat him senseless. And I have never witnessed a
running away. For
more
running
violent
away.
general meeting.
For running away.
Oh, probably for killing Martha. I mean,
But
like,
I'm just saying, though. I mean, obviously they can't do that for killing Martha because, first of all,
Right.
I don't believe he did kill Martha. Nobody ever proved he killed
my
Martha
guess
to that
is
point.
maybe his parents believe he might have killed Martha, so they wanted him to feel that he paid for a crime.
I don't know if Rushton Skakel would have ordered a beating.
I
on
don't
his
know.
son.
I don't think he would have known what consisted of the general meeting. I think parents were given a phone call and said, "Well, your child misbehaved, and we had to give them a general meeting," which means everybody.
My personal thoughts, in short, are that Joe Ritchie thought that he had a few dollars to be made there off of Rushton, and that if he could get his kid to confess to this thing somehow, some way, he could blackmail the father. Because there's no way Joe Ritchie would not have done that. I know Joe Ritchie, and Joe Ritchie was just a scandalous man. And if I had the second richest person in the United States' kid on a hook for a murder charge, I'm gonna ride that horse till it drops.
Right.
Why call the police? All I'm doing is costing myself money by doing that. I'm gonna let it roll under the Secrecy Act. But on to something different. I don't believe Michael did that. I think he got set up pretty heavy, and I believe Elan just. People don't understand that, like you just described, the gravities
I
and the
think
levels
also
it takes
Joe
them to.
took pride in taking a Kennedy down.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who do you think you are? You're nobody, Kennedy. He didn't. He took him down. Like,
When in
it
reality-
was like.
When in reality, Skakel was only a cousin. He wasn't a Kennedy. He was a cousin.
Right.
His mom or sister was married to a Kennedy. They weren't Kennedys.
He wanted to make sure Michael felt like he was a nobody.
That's a shame.
And that is because he just didn't strike me as a violent person. Like, because I had
No, and what I've read about and researched in the case myself personally, he was just a screwy little rich kid like we grew up with on the North Shore that just
right.
always in
He
the way.
could have been a kid from New Trier.
He was by far not a violent.
No, what was he from? What was that? Greenwich, Connecticut. It's just like New Trier. It's like Kenilworth.
Yeah.
That's
Gated
what
community.
it is. Yes. So that's my 2 cents on Skakel.
What else happened, Elan? Absolutely outrageous stuff.
I'll never forget the first time I had the boxing ring. They wanted to take me down for being a rich, spoiled brat. And of course, I was a little Jewish princess, and they took that down. Like, I used to roll my eyes and click my tongue and be sarcastic, and, talk with a nasal talk. I mean, I was a kind of a Jewish princess. I mean, I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't a juvenile delinquent, and I really wasn't a troubled teen. I wanted to go to the shopping mall and get my shoes at Neiman Marcus and, and be a Jewish princess. But I got labeled troubled teen, and I got sent to Elan. And so I got a GM for being a spoiled brat. Stealing food. I was a kitchen worker. But when I got to Elan, I weighed like 100 pounds. And I was skinny, and they put you on a diet. They put all the women on a diet, and this is important.
So what are they doing your GM to you?
So I got a GM for stealing food. Because I was so hungry that I was a kitchen worker. I would like chomp down on an extra piece of bacon off the tray before it would get thrown in the garbage, or I would like shove a piece of toast down my throat, and chase it down with some Kool-Aid. That's how hungry we were, okay? So they really did deprive us of food, okay? And the fact that I now have osteoporosis is an indicator that I was malnourished as a teen. And so they gave me the GM for stealing food and being a sneaky, impulsive little guy to wear a sign at the end of the GM. My name is Betsy Mandel. I'm an impulsive, sneaky little girl. I acquired guilt by stealing food and eating it, and I don't know, something, copying to it later. Just some.
How'd you graduate to the dunce cap?
Oh. So they would post our grades every week. And we had this one teacher that was a little sadistic. And he could have given me a C minus. If you got a D or an F that week.
What teacher was that?
It was a guy.
A guy.
He was kind of tall, lanky, skinny. He had like light brown hair. I can't remember his name. The other teacher, the English teacher, I loved her. She was my friend. But that guy, man, the English teacher recognized that I had problems with spelling and punctuation and grammar, but she encouraged me to write and read anyway. And that's what I liked about her.
So what happened with the dunce cap?
Oh, I had a dunce cap many, many, many times. Not just, is somebody trying to park in your spot? I had a dunce cap many times. So every week they would post the grades, and if you had a D or an F, the communications office would automatically issue you a dunce cap.
Oh, really?
Whether or not you were a coordinator or a
so that
shop
wasn't a special gift. It was a standard issue.
It was standard issue.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was a specially designed cap for just for you.
Oh, that cap was especially designed for me because I always got dunce caps. And that's probably, so that wasn't the general meeting where I got the sign for stealing food. That was probably my second general meeting.
Which is the one with Marty's telling you to kill yourself. That's the one I'm talking about.
That was the with me in the dunce cap, yeah.
And what'd you steal for that one?
Oh, why did I get that journal? I don't even know why I got that journal. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why I got that general meeting. After that general meeting, I had to dig a pit with a spoon and a teacup, and I had to fill the cup. This was outside. It was summer in like 100-degree weather, wearing a dunce cap. From like 7 in the morning until 7 at night. We had to eat outside. We had to sit on a milk crate and eat our food. And I was out there for weeks. I had sunstroke, no sunscreen, no protection, no nothing. And I used to hallucinate. I was so like out of it. I like at that general meeting, I was so out of it. So I think I had already been shot down, and I was digging in the pit with my dunce cap. So they specifically designed that dunce cap to be aerodynamic. So, and the sadist, Alice Dunn, who invented that design, it was like when you would walk from Elan 5 to Elan 3, it would push you. Because it was so windy down that road. You know that road?
Right.
And so the wind would fill in the dunce cap and would push me while I was walking. I mean, I only weighed like 100 pounds. But it would literally push me, like wind force, right? Mm. And so she was so proud of this design. She was like, "Oh yes, and you won't be able to bend it, and you won't be, she was so proud of herself. But the fact of the matter was, it would push me forward and almost make me fall all the time walking outside wearing that design. And she got off on that. She loved it. Like, she was so sadistic that she was so proud of that design that it would like push you in the wind.
Well, we all have our achievements in life, I guess, yeah.
Right.
What was the happiest day you ever had in Elan, if there was one? Outside the day you left, of course.
I think it was like probably when I hit re-entry, and there was me and 3 other girls, and we used to go to the teen disco on the weekends, and we had a great time, and we got to go to Lewiston High School for a semester. That was our re-entry. And we would go outside to the Poland Road and wait for our school bus to come and pick us up and take us to Lewiston High School, and we got to experience going.
What was it like interacting with other kids that are in a regular lifestyle and you're in the Elan
Okay,
lifestyle?
so mind you, it was very interesting because I came from the North Shore, Jewish princess, upper middle class Jewish family. And so these kids were a little bit more rural, Maine kids,
yeah.
Right? They were locals from Maine.
Sure.
And so they would talk about like, what did you do this summer? What did you do this weekend, right? Oh, I went deer hunting with my dad, and they would give details about the hunt. And so some of the like literature stories that we were assigned to read in literature like were more like Oscar Wilde, like hunting stories, right, and things like that, like American, and so there was like a real hunting culture in Maine, and a lot of kids went hunting with their families on the weekends and stuff like that. I mean, there wasn't like a lot to do in Maine. I mean, like...
No, it's woods and mountains, man.
Right. And they always said wicked, man. That was like the first time I heard like the slang, the teen slang, you know?
It's a big East
like,
Coast thing.
Like you say wicked good
That's it.
when you really like something.
That's the East Coast out there. Maine's a beautiful state.
You know, but they were really cool people. They, you know, and so I got to see a different side of people. I feel like the more exposure I got to people, but I will say this. So I excelled creatively. I've always been a creative person. I'm an artist myself, and I'm a writer. And so we had this contest in the Pinehenge School, right? And we had to do a some sort of a report that we had to deliver. And I decided to do it visual, artistic, and like write a report and deliver the report. So I created this like fake Indian artifacts from Indian tribe around the local Maine area.
Right.
Okay. And so I made like masks out of paper mache, and I made the masks, the Indian masks, and I made, you know, arrowheads, and I made cards for that. I did it like a museum exhibit, right? And I won. And so the prize was we got to go to Boston. Okay, so there was 3 of us from like 3 different houses that won, right? Or like maybe they had a winner from each house or something like that. But there was like 3 or 4 of us that won, and we got to go in Joe's Learjet with Dr. Davidson. And we had to go to this conference and give a talk about Elan. And it was this conference of all these mental health professionals. And so we had to tell our Elan journey and our success story and how we're doing at Elan now. And of course, we had each just won this prize we got to go to the museum, right? But we had to go to this luncheon first and talk up Elan, talk about how great Elan is helping us and how it saved our life and blah, 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 blah. And my story was so impactful that it was a luncheon, right? And I got to sit at a table with like all these hotshots because I was one of the speakers. And they were just praising my story and my journey and how wonderful Elan is for you. And you know, I know like Massachusetts stopped sending kids there or something like that. So I find it kind of interesting that I was in a room in Massachusetts talking to mental health professionals about how great Elan is helping me. So I'm feeling like maybe, in hindsight, at the time I was so excited. I got a day out of Elan. I got to fly in a jet, you know, and then we got to go to an art museum, and then we got to eat at Nathaniel Hall, and we had steamed clams and lobster and clam chowder, you know. It was like, and then we flew back, and we got cartons of cigarettes, and, you know.
Cool. Well, no, is there anything else you want to add to this, or?
So, when I first saw the movie,
How did you like the movie? That's an important thing to ask about.
I did not know I was going to be in it.
No.
I'm 99% certain
Maybe
I'm
Todd
the girl.
will send you a check.
I'm 99% certain I'm the girl in the nutshell.
Send Todd a letter.
And I'm saying 99% because the formula general meeting that they had, I remember several girls having a similar general meeting about the exact same things. So the first time I saw it in the movie, I thought it was Tiffany Sedaris, because that was her story too. Same thing happened to her. And but then when they said this, because I was in the house with Tiffany when she came. She was new when I was had been there for about a year, 9 months to a year. So at first I thought it was Tiffany, but when they said she was from the Midwest, I knew Tiffany was from North Carolina, so it wasn't Tiffany. Couldn't be Tiffany. So I ruled her out. And then I thought, well, it could be this other girl who was from Elan 8. So, and then, but that same thing happened, and there were so many girls that looked like me. You know, throw a dunce cap on a 14-year-old girl who's a little shell-shocked from whatever happened to her before she got there, which aren't good things.
What about the whole documentary as a whole, though?
So, I thought the documentary was great, and I really felt represented. Like, finally, and a survivor telling our story. I really liked that. I loved the interviews. I remember Mary O'Brien very closely. The very first day I got there, I met Mary O'Brien. I think she had to sit on the stage.
She's a sweetheart. I love Mary.
And they ridiculed her. And But Joe told me to talk to Mary O'Brien that she would relate to me. Well, my dad got kind of acclimated. I think Marty and the Line 5 staff members kind of met with my dad. And so I was told to go and talk to Mary O'Brien. And so Mary O'Brien kind of pulled me in and gave me some very wise advice on how to survive Elan. It was very, very interesting. And she's like, you'll understand what I mean once you've been around for a couple of days. You'll see what I'm talking about. And she was just giving me like friendly advice on how to survive. And so I found there was two types of kids that were there. There were kids like Mary O'Brien who taught you how to survive and would give you a hug and you felt like you could relate to them, right? And then there were sadists and pretty much psychopaths that really they deserved to be in some sort of program that kept them outside of society. But now
I've said it was a great breeding ground for narcissists outside of that.
I think so, yeah. And so
else.
you could always tell who was a sadist and who was cool, and that's why I'm very leery when a survivor wants to friend me, because is this person a narcissist? Is it,
Right.
What are their intentions, and so it is a mixed bag, I'll be honest with you. But Mary told me how to, survive. And she was always very kind. And I remember when I first met her, she had already been there for 5 years.
Yeah, she's one of the longest residents there.
And
8 years.
she said that Joe Ritchie was her guardian. And that she was probably going to be there until she turned 18. And there were other kids like that were just like her parents. She was adopted like me. Her parents just must have dropped her off at a lawn and given Joe a boatload of money every month and said, take her.
Wow.
And I think that happened to my friend Julie, and I think that happened to Carmela. She was there for 4 years when I got there. She was in my house. She was a state kid, but Joe had her in 5. And she went on a lot of the family visits. And looking back, I think, when a state kid goes with you on a family visit and then they report back, how ungrateful you are. You had it made in your little house, in your little suburb. All you got to do is be good and blah, 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 blah. Because she was an orphan, right? But she didn't know the pain of the gilded cage on the North Shore.
Right.
I was an adopted kid. I don't want to go into my little broken red wagon story or anything like that because I've dealt with it. But my adoption didn't work out so well. And so my mother's answer was dump her on Schwartz. And so I never went home after that. My mother never accepted me again and always believed everything that the doctor told her about me, which really wasn't true. I liked Iris. I saw a redeeming quality in her and I felt sorry for her. I went to her home one time and I could tell it was fucked up and broken, and they broke her. And Iris liked me because it was a pure friendship. And we stayed friends until we were about 19 or 20 and we lost touch. But I was like a respite from whatever shit life she had. Right. We would get together and be girlfriends, right? That's what I gave to her and that's what she gave to me. It was really a true friendship. We cared about each other. But Schwartz used that friendship to tell my mom that I was a slut and a whore and I was like her. And that's why it impacted me long term so much, being rejected by my mom.
Right.
I didn't fully realize it. I realized it along the years, but when she died and I read her obituary, I wasn't even in it. And that hurt. That's that long-term impact.
So the happiest day of your life then was leaving Elan? Or one of the happiest days?
The happiest summer was the summer of 80. After I was 18 and I could no longer be pulled in. And my friend Julie, who was there for 5 years, signed herself out. And we ran away from home. I was 17. She was 18.
But you were out of Elan.
We were out of Elan, and we spent the whole summer of 80 together. I'd say that summer, and you know what? We tried to report our perpetrators to the FBI. We tried to report Joe and the good doctor to the police, and nobody believed us. Nobody took our statements.
But now you're a happy individual. I got to thank you so much for the time in your interview. I do appreciate it. And there's going to be many more of these to come. And I think we're all going to survive pretty well in life. I don't think things are going to be so bad. At least hopefully they're getting better.
I think the way things got better for me was I was able to, after a first marriage and I had a couple of kids, I was able to get a GED and go to college and get a profession. And so become a homeowner and have a car and a mortgage,
Right,
and responsibility and raise my own family. So, I think I found my way to, the only person that's going to make me happy is me,
All comes down to that.
No one's going to help me. No one's going to buy me a house. I have to buy me a house,
No violins in the fiddle, no violins in the case for you.
And so what keeps me going is keeping going, working and not surviving, but staying above the survival, mode, thriving.
Thriving.
And
And thriving leads to happiness.
Yeah.
I thank you so much.